I'm very sorry to interrupt your evening's conversation, because I'm sure you're all enjoying meeting each other and getting to know each other better if you've already met at some ACS event. But I think you'll realize this interruption is well worth it because we're going to have a wonderful evening tonight. But first of all, how fabulous is this location? I hope you all... I hope you all had a chance to visit some of the exhibits and see some of those wonderful photographs by Spider Martin of the march in Selma, which we are commemorating this weekend. But really, I can't say enough about the people who have helped us secure this location. It really could not be more appropriate for the event we are having. So first of all, I should tell you who I am. I am Caroline Fredrickson. I'm the president of the American Constitution Society. And I am so excited. I am so excited to see out in this audience tonight those people who are going to change this country and change it for the better. So welcome. I hope that's not too much pressure on all of you, but welcome to the ACS third annual student convention. So there's some of you in the audience who've been to these before, and I think you will know and understand why I say this is my favorite ACS event. So tonight, before I introduce our absolutely amazing keynote speaker, I do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, without whom this weekend's event would not be possible. First, our huge thanks to our platinum sponsors, our hosts, the University of Texas School of Law, Orrick, our fantastic board member and UT alum, David Frederick. Our gold sponsors, Baron Budd, Diamond McCarthy, the Ford Foundation, and Sherman and Sterling. And our silver sponsors, our wonderful, wonderful ACS board chair, David Brodsky, who is here with us tonight. The law firm Kellogg, Huber, Hansen, Todd, Evans, and Feigl. The LBJ Presidential Library. Ambassador Lyndon Olson. And the law firm Paul Weiss. So let's give them all a warm round of applause. And I really must give a very special thanks to Dean Bangs, Dean Farnsworth, and the entire ACS UT student chapter for their tireless efforts in making this weekend a success. So the goal of this year's ACS Student Convention is to address questions and solutions surrounding justice in the 21st century. While individual panels and discussions tomorrow will provide many insights into these questions, the goal of fully addressing these issues cannot be achieved without welcoming Cecile Richards, a true leader and activist in these areas. Challenging inequality in a wide range of legal and societal issues has been the foundation of Cecile's career. Her work touches upon the cornerstones of progressive family values and inequality to be discussed during this convention. She began her career as an advocate for income equality, fighting for the rights of low-wage earners in California, Louisiana, and Texas in the hotel, healthcare, and janitorial industries. Having seen the plight of low-income workers, Cecile is well aware of the difficulties these workers and their families face trying to earn a living wage in 21st century America. With that experience, Cecile focused her talents and passion on combating larger inequities plaguing progressive family values and the role of women in society. After working for House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi and founding the grassroots coalition America Votes, Cecile joined Planned Parenthood in 2006 and currently serves as the president of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America and the Planned Parenthood Action Fund. In this capacity, she works to create a world in which women and young people can lead healthy, safe lives. Under her leadership, the number of Planned Parenthood supporters has doubled, reaching 7 million people. When looking at the recent work of Planned Parenthood, it's easy to see why support for this organization has grown. Cecile has expanded the organization's advocacy for access to health care. Planned Parenthood plays a pivotal role in shaping health care and protecting women's interests under the Affordable Care Act. This work also included preserving access to Planned Parenthood's preventive care through newly established federal programs. Many of the victories gained under Cecile's leadership are critical to progressive family values and to protecting women, both in the home and in the workforce. Giving every woman access to resources and safe facilities and the ability to know that she is in control of her reproduction and to make decisions that are best for her is essential to resolving many of the inequities Americans currently face. Giving every woman the choice to join the workforce while maintaining strong and safe relationships gives her the chance to excel, both personally and professionally. The work of Cecile Richards and Planned Parenthood eliminates the question of can women have it all and ensures that, yes, women can make their own reproductive choices and can be mothers and managing partners, caretakers, and Fortune 500 CEOs if they so desire. In this regard, the work of Planned Parenthood is undeniably important. This organization has 700 affiliate healthcare centers nationwide. These centers provide healthcare services to 2.7 million patients while also providing sex education to more than 1 million young people across the country. Not only are Cecile and her team providing access, they are protecting the lives and health of so many Americans, without which the inequities we will discuss this weekend would be so much larger. So with that, it is my distinct honor and absolute pleasure to welcome Cecile Richards to speak to us this evening. It is my hope that her wisdom, experience, and passion will help frame many of the discussions that will take place this weekend, but also inspire many of the young law students and future practitioners in the room, as I know it has inspired me. So please join me in welcoming Cecile Richards.
Much. Thank you. Oh, no. That's okay. No, bravo to you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Well, wow, that was really sweet. Are you shocked, Dad? I think my father is like... It's always nice to surprise your parents. Thank you, Caroline. And, from working with you at the ACLU to seeing what you have built here at ACS is just phenomenal. So thanks so much for inviting me to join you and to meet all these fabulous, young, aspiring, ass-kicking lawyers. Really, really grateful to all of you. And let's give it up for the UT law students. That's so awesome. Look at horns. Before we start tonight, I just also wanted to, if you would join me, I worked, as Caroline said, for years. I was a union organizer and organized a lot of low-wage workers and a lot of service workers. So will you please give it up for the folks who served us here tonight? I really appreciate that. And thank you. I love it when someone else cooks dinner. So it's great to be home. I'm from Texas, and I don't know, you all have added, we probably, if you could just register to vote, we could actually probably take over the city of Austin, at least here, pretty soon. This is going to be the least intellectual speech you hear all weekend. So I know you have a lot of really brainy lawyers that are talking to you, and many of them my friends and colleagues. So this is going to be a little bit different. So with apologies, because I'm not a lawyer, although we have a lot of them. It's interesting. So in Texas, we raise fierce, no apologies progressives around here, and that's no accident. It's because when you grow up in Texas, it becomes pretty clear that in order to get anywhere, you're going to have to challenge every single powers that be. And it's so, I'm really thrilled my dad's here tonight because my mom and dad actually started out kind of early. I was born in Waco, and they were high school sweethearts in Waco, and eventually went to Baylor University, which is a Baptist school, as you probably know, where mom said everything they did was more fun because it was either against the rules or it was a sin. In fact, I don't know, Dad, have you ever heard this? Marcia Ball says that, in fact, no one at Baylor ever had sex standing up because folks might accuse you of trying to dance, which was against the rules. So I think it's true. You can ask my dad later. But so I think at an early age, they kind of got the idea that you had to fight back. And so I grew up in Dallas in the 60s, and you can see a lot of the pictures around here about what that was like. And every progressive movement that came through town, my parents just jumped on it. They embraced politics like it was a survival tactic. And pretty soon they got all of us involved as well. I remember as a kid, my mother dragging us to the local grocery store to demand to see the Union label on the iceberg lettuce. My dad, who is here tonight, defended everyone from the Dallas Underground newspaper, which had been busted by the Dallas police, to working people who were fighting for the right to organize. And he continues to do battle, as you will hear tomorrow, for voting rights and every other good cause that needs a lawyer. So tonight I want to give him thanks for a lifetime of service in progressive causes, and everyone else as well. So we all thank him for me. So I grew up like most kids, you think your family's like everybody else, except other folks were bowling and we were doing politics. But it turned out, of course, after a while, all those block walking skills and organizing skills paid off, because there was a time, even here in Texas, and some of us can remember it, when folks who'd been challenging the status quo and the political establishment for years came together, public school teachers and union folks and African American and Latino leaders and LGBT activists and young people. And we elected Texas's first progressive woman governor, my mom, Cecile Richards. And so that's where, organizing works. And I'm here to tell you, she may have been the first, but she damn sure is not going to be the last here in Texas. So, I think that's really what I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight, is that progress it's just not a given. It happens, change happens because people agitate and they organize, and because they're outrageous and they're courageous. And I'm lucky enough to work with an organization that's been doing that for 99 years. Planned Parenthood started when a young nurse named Margaret Sanger was arrested in New York for handing out pamphlets about birth control, because it was illegal to do it at the time. And the story is, of course, she was busted by a woman cop who was posing as her mom. They threw her in jail, where she taught her fellow inmates about birth control. And that's my kind of organizer. And nearly a century later, it's incredible, actually, to think about where we started. And now Planned Parenthood is the largest provider of reproductive health care in the country. 1 in 5 women in this country come to us at some point for health care, for everything from cancer screenings to birth control, and yes, for safe and legal abortion. And so it's a real honor to be here tonight on behalf of Planned Parenthood staff and doctors, and particularly those ones here in Texas, where simply providing health care is a radical act of defiance. And to keep doing what we do, litigation is a hugely important part. And if our general counsel were here, Roger Evans, he would tell you we have never been in more federal courtrooms than we are today. So again, it's great to be with all of you, because we need you out there. But we need more than that as well. And it's when you combine really good organizing and really good lawyering that you can make change. It's probably not news to any of you that we've had more than our fair share of bad laws, bad bills, extreme and dangerous, that have been passed and signed against women. The incredible thing is, I mean, you can read them every day. A ton of them were passed by people who lack a fundamental understanding even of biology. I mean, there have been so many crazy statements made by legislators that our most common Twitter hashtag is now hashtag not the onion. And that's a bad sign. I don't know if you followed this story, but last month in the Idaho legislature, they were debating a bill where they heard expert medical testimony about advances in health care through telemedicine. And one of the legislators had to actually have it explained to him by a doctor that if a woman swallows a small camera, it does not end up in her vagina. This is a lawmaker. So actually, it is good, though. We love to have folks out there making the case for good, medically accurate sex education at an appropriate age. But I think that's the truth, is that, but if you get in the game and you play, you can make huge advances. And I want to mention something that Caroline mentioned, which is the Affordable Care Act, which was an opportunity we felt like to finally level the playing field somewhat for women's health care, which of course is a radical notion in the U.S. Congress, but we thought we'd give it a try. And it was pretty clear from the beginning that it wasn't going to be easy to make up for some historic inequities. And just to give you a flavor, one of my favorite experiences was at one point the Senate was debating, the United States Senate, not the Texas Senate, they were debating whether insurance plans should have to cover maternity benefits. Okay, it's the 21st century, my friends. And this was when Senator John Kyle from Arizona said that he was against these benefits because, quote, I don't need maternity care, which would seem somewhat obvious, but this is why, but it was great. Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow, anyone here from Michigan? Yeah, let's give it up for Debbie Stabenow. I love it. She came back right at him without missing a beat and said, I think your mother probably did. Yeah, I mean, I love it. That's why it's great to have 20 women in the United States Senate, although, as Claire McCaskill says, you know what would be better? 50, actually. And there was also a great moment when one of the senators leaned over to one of his staff people to ask, why was all the funding for cervical cancer going to women? I'm not making this stuff up. But anyway, that's why you have to really appreciate the folks who do go to Washington and who fight the good fight, so many of them. And then the hundreds of thousands of folks around the country who agitated on issues related to the Affordable Care Act, rallied in buses that we sent to Washington, and students on campuses that dressed up in giant pill packs and ran around and agitated. And because as a result, three things happened in the Affordable Care Act which are huge, even though, of course, we're constantly litigating this. First, women can no longer be charged more for health insurance than men. There's no more gender rating legal in America, which is absolutely unbelievable. The second thing is women can't be denied health insurance coverage anymore because they've had breast cancer or have been pregnant. Reasons that they were routinely denied coverage. And third, for the first time, women's preventive care is now covered for no copay. And that, my friend, includes birth control. That includes birth control. So, I mean, it's actually pretty amazing when I look back at, the last few years, because there have been so many tough battles. But the fact is now 48.5 million women are getting their preventive care covered at no cost. And that includes a lot of women who'd never had access to birth control at no copay. In fact, the first year, women saved $483 million on birth control. And that's when you begin to see you're really making a difference and really getting economic parity. And we sure as hell aren't going to let this progress get undone on our watch. So when our opponents of the birth control issue took aim and took their fight all the way to the Supreme Court, Planned Parenthood was ready. We engaged millions of folks around the country, educated what was at stake to tell their story, and with their help, we made Hobby Lobby a household name, and not for macrame or glitter glue. Right? And because the truth is sometimes you have to fight even when you aren't sure you're going to win, because that's how you build a movement. So witnessed the state of Texas, for example. I mean, politicians in this state have passed so many bad bills. They've really thrown the state of Texas for women into a full-scale public health crisis. They ended the women's health program that closed dozens of centers. I was just meeting with some nurses today who were saying young women come to them for birth control now, and it's no longer covered in the state of Texas. They can't get it at Planned Parenthood. Hundreds of thousands of women who routinely came to centers for basic checkups and cancer screenings. And then last legislative session, the state legislature began to pass the harshest abortion restrictions in the country. But you know what happened? The state erupted. And everyday folks from all across, from every corner of the state, came roaring back and came to Austin. Folks packed this Capitol day after day, waiting till 2 and 3 in the morning just for the chance to testify in the state Senate. They left their kids with neighbors, and the students from A&M took off classes and drove from College Station. And then when my friend, State Senator Wendy Davis, took to the floor of the Texas Senate with her historic 13-hour filibuster, it was amazing. It was amazing. More than 100,000 people had tuned in to watch it all on live stream. The Capitol was packed that night. I mean, lines, if you haven't been to the Capitol, you got to go because the lines were snaking all the way up the 3 stories of the rotunda. Every single overflow room was filled to capacity. And then around 10 o'clock at night, Barack Obama tweeted to a cool 50 million followers, "There's something special going on in Austin." And he was right. Having people fill the state capitol was such an alarming sight for the politicians that the lieutenant governor called us the unruly mob. You know, which is kind of funny because in other parts of the world, they call that democracy in action, actually. And since the filibuster, we've been back and forth in federal court, but we've also been organizing to make sure that we can continue to provide care no matter what. And after the Fifth Circuit ruled in this case and forced abortion providers across the state to shut down, our health center manager in Houston, Texas, and her staff worked around the clock to provide health care to women, to a flood of patients who were counting on Planned Parenthood. And the waiting room was full, the lobby was full, the patio, the hallway, and the parking lot. And Trom, her name, the woman who runs our center, her message was, "It ain't over." She says, "We're still providing services. There's still people in Texas who are so committed that we will never, ever go down without a fight." And she's right, because I was just up in Dallas, Texas. We were talking about Dallas a minute ago, where Ken Lambrecht, our CEO there, and Planned Parenthood Greater Texas just cut the ribbon on a brand new health center that provides all health care to women, including safe and legal abortion. And I just got back from San Antonio. We're about to do the same thing in a matter of weeks. Planned Parenthood has been in Texas for more than 80 years, and it's going to take a lot more than Rick Perry and Greg Abbott and the Texas legislature to stop us and shut us down. So, but the other coolest thing that came out of these fights was a whole new generation of young people, a whole new generation of activists and organizers. One of my favorites was Bo Guidry. He's 9 years old. He not only watched every hour of Wendy's 13-hour filibuster from the gallery with his mom, he live tweeted the entire thing. And I'm telling you, the guy's awesome. His best tweet was, "I thought I'd be spending my summer at Six Flags and the pool. Who knew I'd be changing the world?" Actually, Bo went on, he was so inspired that summer, he ran for 3rd grade class president and won, okay? That's an organizer. But I think that is the great thing, and as an organizer, to see the power of social media and the miracle means there's stories about freedom fighters all over the country all the time, and they come across my desk and across my screen every day. Like one of my favorites is Caitlin Campbell. Caitlin was a 17-year-old high school senior in West Virginia. And they had an abstinence-only speaker, and it was mandatory that every student go to attend, and Caitlin refused. And when she told him she wouldn't go, when she was told to keep quiet, she did what any self-respecting high school student would do. She went on social media. And so then her principal called and threatened her because she was a senior, and threatened that he was going to call the college where she had been accepted in the fall and report on her bad character. And Caitlin said, go ahead. And so then her story went viral, and we picked it up, and we shared it on Facebook and Twitter, and then within hours, she has thousands of friends and likes all across the country. And finally, her future college put up a tweet of their own. Caitlin Campbell, Wellesley is excited to welcome you this fall, right? Yeah, so I think her principal had never Googled Wellesley College, but I think Caitlin and Bo are good examples and living proof of why it's not enough to just bring young people into a movement. Then you got to actually listen to them, and you got to give them power and opportunity. And this generation, your generation, is bold and fearless and impatient in an awesome way. When I see dreamers, kids who risk being deported marching 1,500 miles from Miami to Washington, that's bold and fearless. And when right? That's fearless. And when I see fast food workers walking out all across the country fighting for the right to make a living wage, that's bold and fearless. And another young woman that we've gotten to know, Emma Solkowitz, I don't know if you followed her story, a Columbia University student, carrying her mattress to class every day, demanding justice for survivors of sexual assault. That's bold and fearless. And to me, for all the stuff that's been written about millennials, the most studied generation ever, this much is true. This generation is demanding to be seen and heard, and you are the ones that we've been waiting for. And it's really interesting in my own movement, where young leaders and reproductive justice leaders have insisted that we now take on one of the most fundamental issues that we have to in this country, and that is getting rid of the stigma and shame around abortion by getting our stories out in the media openly, honestly, and without apology. And so this year, I did that myself. You know, I had an abortion, and it was the right decision for me and my family, and I will fight to my very last breath for the right of every single woman to control her body, because no legislator and no judge and no politician has the right to make that decision for any woman, for me or any other woman in this country. So, thanks. So, I'm not the only one who's spoken out. I mean, and it's interesting, since my story was published in some women's magazine, I've heard women speak their truths all over. Women come up to me from Des Moines, Iowa to Honolulu, and they tell me their stories. And now, wouldn't you know, Cosmo magazine, the most widely read women's magazine in the world, is writing about women's abortion stories. Nicki Minaj, the most successful female rapper of all time, Dad, she's talked about publicly about her own experience. And hey, Beyonce, a fellow Texan, by the way, has outed herself as 100% no apologies feminist. I'm telling you, we are not a fringe movement in this country anymore, and we are not going away. And you know, this is a thing, and I guess as you kind of go into this exciting new chapter of your life, it feels really good to be loud and proud, and not just for ourselves, but for the folks who are counting on us and who will be counting on you. And I'm going to close you with tell you this last story, because to me, it really sort of brought all of this back home. Back in the last presidential election, it was interesting. We knew that when it came to reproductive rights, that women were either going to be at the table or we were going to be on the menu. And so we rallied and we raised money to go up on TV and highlighted the positions of the candidates on abortion rights and on reproductive rights, and we made our issues part of the discussion. And so it was really interesting, because by the time the election was really quite close, during the second national debate, I don't know if you remember, the first one didn't go particularly well for our candidate. But in the second national debate, in front of nearly 70 million viewers, President Obama spoke about the life-saving health care that Planned Parenthood provides to millions of women each year. And this was because Mr. Romney had said he wanted to get rid of Planned Parenthood. And in fact, he mentioned Planned Parenthood 4 times in that debate. Not that I was counting, but I was. But here's the interesting thing. A few days later, a woman comes into our health center down on the Gulf Coast Freeway in Houston because she's found a lump in her breast, and she had been years since her last breast exam. And so the Planned Parenthood clinician welcomed her and asked who had sent her to us. And the woman said, well, I don't have a doctor, but I heard President Obama say on TV the other night that you do breast exams, and that's why I'm here. And tonight, she's why we're here. Progress isn't a given, and change doesn't happen on its own. It happens because a 25 or 26-year-old Texas lawyer named Sarah Weddington goes to the Supreme Court and changes life for women in this country forever. It happens because a young lawyer named Cecile Richards defends the right of conscientious objectors to stay out of the Vietnam War. Change happens because of the insistent, impatient young people who are in this room and who know that this world is moving forward and we better be moving with it. So we really only have one job to do, and that is to imagine the future we want and then to build it. But nobody's going to do it but us, so let's get to it. Thank you very much for having me.